And now if anybody has external effects like a Chaos Pad, a Chord Chaos Pad, or a Pioneer effect unit or something like that, there's an effects loop in the back of the mixer where you can route your hardware effects. And there's a button here, external insert. You press that, that'll route your hardware effects to the mixer. Now you can have your Chaos Pad going, your software DJ effects going in Scratch Live, your hardware effects on the 68 going all together, and use more effects than that, it's probably not going to sound good. So you got everything you need right there, you know. The software effects, you can control those a little bit. You can change those. There's a drop-down menu right here. You click on that, another panel opens up and it gives you a little more options. Now on each effect, there's this knob, and that's called a super knob. When you turn that super knob from left to right or from minimum to maximum, it's going to affect all these different choices underneath here. Like on this blade, it's going to affect the depth, the feedback filter, and the beats. You can link any of those parameters to the super knob. So when you turn the super knob from minimum value to maximum value, it'll affect all those other knobs that are linked to it. And you link it just by clicking it. So right now, this depth is high lit. So when I turn this knob, you can see the depth knob turning also. If I want to link the feedback to it, link the feedback filter. Now all of those will turn when I turn the super knob. If you want to get real creative with it, click on the edit button. And that gives you an edit option to choose how much value on these parameters the super knob is going to affect from full off to full on. So say if I turn the super knob from full left to full right, I only want the depth to move a little bit. I don't want it to go from full off to full on. You have to unlink it first, and then you have minus and plus values. You set it to where you want the low value, hit the minus button. Set it to where you want the high value, hit the plus button. Now I can link it back to the super knob. Now when I turn the super knob from full off to full on, it's only going to go that distance that I set. Now you can also do something like set a reverse value. So I'm going to move it up a little bit higher and set that to my minimum value. Move it back to the left to a lower setting and make that my high value. Now when I link it from the super knob, as the super knob goes from low to high, my depth is going to go from high to low. So I get kind of a reverse thing going on, while the other ones are still going forward. So you can play around with that and create some really interesting, like, layered effects. If you come up with something you like, you can hit the save button, and you can save that. Give it a name. It'll save in your effects folder, in your Scratch Live music folder, and then you can share that with people. So if your friend has an effect and you're like, man, it's kind of hot, where'd you get that? Well, you know, I made it. You can email it to you. You can put it in your folder. You can use it. You can have as many effects as you want in your folder, and you see this drop-down list. You click on that, and you can choose anything that you have in your effects folder. Not all of them, most of them. Yeah, the ones at the top, all the ones at the top there, they ain't all capital letters, those are the ones that come with it. Everything else on this list are ones either I made or people made. So once again, you can have as many different effects or variations of effects you want in here, plus your mixer effects, plus your outboard effects. As far as that goes, straight. There are two mic channels on the 68. You turn those on with these buttons at the top. They say mic 1 and mic 2. It's pretty easy to figure out. The light lights up, you know it's active. The first mic channel is 48 volt phantom power, switchable. If you have a mic that needs phantom power, that's on the first channel. The second channel has a line level switch on it. So if you're running like a sampler or something through it that needs like a line level signal, you can switch that to line level as opposed to mic level. You have your pan for each mic and high and low EQ. The mics also have a flex effects section. So you can route the microphones through the effects as well. Mixer effects, software effects, hardware effects. You do the same thing you do with the channels. Let's talk about these strips on the side. You have two control strips on the side of the mixer. And you can use these for things like scrolling through your crates. I have a knob up here, I can scroll through a crate. When I get to a crate I want, I can press down on that knob, and now the focus jumps into the songs in that crate. Now I can scroll through the crate. If I want to load a song on the left, press the knob on the left, it loads it on the left. If I want to load it to the right deck, press it and it loads to the right deck. Now you're thinking, well, what if I want to load something on one of these decks? How do I do that? There are only two strips but 4 decks. The way you switch focus, and with the 68, this button up here, the layer shift button on the mixer, if I press that, you can see these red rings around the top 2 decks. You switch down to the bottom decks. So now that's controlling my secondary decks. If I want these to control my primary decks, I press it again, it jumps back up to my primary decks. And this button will change colors. When it's orange, it's controlling your primary decks. When it's red, it's controlling your secondary decks. Now, what if you don't want, like, you know, these first two decks to be your primary decks? What if you have 4 turntables set up and you want 2 and 3, the ones on the middle, to be your primary decks? You can do that too. Go to your setup screen, go to your hardware tab, down here at the bottom, see this option to select primary decks. I can click on that and I can choose decks 1 and 2, decks 2 and 3, decks 3 and 4, decks 1 and 4. And obviously, whatever 2 are your primary decks, the other 2 are going to be your secondary decks.
I want to let everybody know too, because you can't see, we thought we'd have a projector, but Wiz came to our factory and we filmed all of this. So we're in the process of editing those clips. So what you're seeing today will be available from our website. So you'll be able to go back and review some of the things if you missed anything. Remember that you can also call if you missed something. And the other thing is that the instruction manual is available at our site. It's pretty funny to think that anybody would download the instruction manual, but it's there, and all these details are there too. So there's a lot here. That information is there as a resource for you, and there'll be a visualization of everything he's doing too, just so you know. So we'll have a way to back it up.
So I showed you how to scroll and load your songs, change your primary decks. Real quick, if you have 2 laptops set up, the way you would switch for these controls to control one laptop or the other one is with this button called Control Point. And at the top it has a USB-A and USB-B. If you click on that, if I had another laptop set up, this green button would turn orange and it would let me know it's controlling USB-B. I could still, on either laptop at any time, use my filters on the channels, use the crossfaders, add effects to those channels. The only thing I can't do on my laptop, if the focus is for the other one, is use these channel strips on the side to control it. That's it. Other than that, I can still mix, add effects, use my filters, you know, change songs, whatever I want to do on my laptop, just like I had control. Now, the main thing about these strips, you're going to be able to control all your cue points and all your loops. If these are lit up, that means there's a cue point in that position. You have 5 cue points on each track in Scratch Live you can set. For those of you unfamiliar with Scratch Live, a cue point, you can set it, and anytime you press that cue point, it'll automatically jump to that point in the song at any given time. So I have a cue point on this track set on a kick and a snare at the beginning of the track. So it's real easy to trigger a cue point. Now to set a cue point, all you have to do is press one of these blank buttons and set a cue point. If I want to set another one, press it. Now if you want to delete it, there's a delete button here. Hold the delete button down, press the ones you want to delete and they're gone. So it's just that quick. If I want to set a cue point, set it, trigger it, delete it, set another one. Real easy, real quick. Now your loops. In Scratch Live, you have different ways you can loop material. You can do a manual loop where you're setting the end point, the beginning of the loop, and the out point, and then it'll close and loop. So if you're a little off with your timing, it's going to be off. You also have auto loops that'll automatically set a 1-bar loop, 2-bar loop, 4-bar loop, whatever, a half-bar loop, automatically based on the BPM of the track. To set a manual loop, these buttons up here, your loop buttons, will switch between orange and green. Now there's a green stripe on the right side of the buttons and an orange stripe on the left side of the buttons. When this button is orange, if you look on this green stripe, it says manual, so now you know you're in manual mode. If you follow that green stripe down the side of the buttons, on each button, it'll tell you what that button does when it's in manual mode or the orange mode. If I press it and it turns green, on this green stripe it says auto, so now I know I'm in auto loops. If I follow it down that side on the green stripe, I know that this one, first button in auto loop mode, controls the loop. In manual mode, it controls the endpoint. So it's real visual and easy to figure out. So let's start off with the manual loops. I'm going to press the endpoint to start a loop, and then the out point to loop it. And if you can see the screen, when I press the endpoint, you'll see a green bar start on here, a loop bar. And when I press the out point, it's going to close that bar and start looping. In, out. So you can see the loop going. I purposely made it a little off so I can show you something else. If you want to adjust the loop, if your timing's not quite right, say I want to adjust the out point. I'm going to press the out button on the mixer, and now I can use this knob to scroll through this loop and get it set right where I want it.